One woman and at least 5 men in a hotel room in London in Canada. In the early hours of the morning, a young woman known only publicly as EM experienced something that left her with trauma that she would likely have to deal with for the rest of her life. The case went to trial, and by the time that it ended in 2025, it had consumed Canadian hockey. It left people asking the most uncomfortable question a country can ask about the sport that it loves the most, which is, what exactly are we protecting? It was June 2018 when members of Canada's 2018 World Junior Championship team, the young men who had won gold for Canada earlier that year, gathered in London for a Hockey Canada Foundation gala and golf tournament celebrating their victory. They were celebrated, honored, treated like heroes. Hockey is huge in Canada. It's a big deal, so bringing home a win naturally left people of the public putting these men up on a pedestal. The 5 men at the center of what followed were Michael McLeod, Carter Hart, Alex Formanton, Dylan Dube, and Cal Foots. Back in 2018, they were ranging from ages 19 to 20. By the time that this case actually goes to trial, they were 27, 28 years old. All were on their way to professional careers within the NHL. They win gold. Canada loves them. The entire team attends this gala, which is meant to be like an award ceremony of sorts, but essentially it was a huge party to celebrate their big win. Everyone is on cloud 9. It's mid-June. They go out. They're ready to have a fun night. While they're out, one of the team members, Michael McLeod, starts talking to a 20-year-old woman. They're hitting it off, so he says, "Hey, why don't we go back to my hotel room?" The girl, known as EM, agrees. CCTV footage captures them leaving. They go back to his hotel room. They do it because they're both into it and they want to, and then EM gets up to go to the bathroom. She is not wearing anything. When she comes out, there are now several hockey teammates walking in the room, which naturally catches EM off guard because why and how did their room now turn into the hangout room? Come to find out, Michael McLeod had texted his teammates basically offering up EM to them, saying, if you want to do anything to her or with her, come to my room. EM feels vulnerable because, again, wearing nothing, she's now in a room with 10 to 15 strangers who she does not know. Yeah, she agreed to go there with Michael McLeod in the first place, but she's now in a situation that she never expected to be in. When EM returns home later that night, her mom can tell that something isn't right. EM has been crying, and I assume that she looks very clearly upset, to the point that her mom asks her what happened, and all EM can say at that point is, it's all my fault, it's all my fault. So her mom, in her gut, although EM has not told her the full story, makes the decision to call authorities to say, something's happened to my daughter. She was in this hotel room with all of these guys. She's not okay. Something happened and we need to figure out what it was. It's hard for her to talk about, but eventually EM opens up and tells authorities what happened in that room. She says what I already told you about, voluntarily going there with Michael McLeod, engaging in intimate activities with him, but then she says that the rest of the team members unexpectedly showed up and then the entire environment in that room changed. EM says that she was scared. She was also not in the right state of mind because she had previously been out that night with friends, but she says that the men then took control over the situation and forced her to do things, certain things to them and for them that she did not feel comfortable doing. But out of fear, EM felt like the only safe option was to do what they wanted. Prosecutors would later argue that the players did do what they wanted without taking the necessary steps to ensure that EM was voluntarily consenting to certain acts. Trigger warning, this is not easy to listen to. These acts included things such as spitting on her behind and essaying her in multiple ways, several of them taking turns and asking who wanted to do what next. EM also stated that the men were speaking amongst themselves, talking about golf clubs that they had in the room because they had that golf tournament the next morning, asking if they should insert them and wondering, quote, if she could take a whole one, end quote. She says that a lot of team members were in the room, but later specifically spoke about the 5 that I mentioned as the ones who actively participated in said acts and commanded her on what to do next. Also saying others were just on the bed, on their phones, eating food like nothing was happening. EM says that she felt scared. I feel like any person would be, and says that she's already not the kind of person that's good at standing up for herself. So when everything was happening, she was already having trouble registering what was actually happening to her. She couldn't really register, let alone say no, and then standing up and trying to leave the room. She disassociated, letting her mind go and, quote, just let my body do what it needed to do to keep me safe, end quote. She said when she did attempt to walk towards the door to leave, when she attempted to leave the room, she was, quote, directed, manipulated, and intimidated into remaining there. She also said that at times she heard the men say, quote, she's crying, don't let her leave, don't let her leave. When they were done, I guess, the men told her to leave the room because they had the golf tournament the next morning and they needed to wake up early for that. But not before she was allegedly forced into making a pair of videos, 2 videos, in which she stated that everything that happened was consensual. The videos are only seconds long, but in them you can hear a man's voice saying, everything that just happened was consensual, right? You wanted to do this, right? She says yes, and then the video cuts off. Absolutely terrifying and so disturbing, because if you are going to argue that what you did was consensual, which is what they would go on to argue, why did you take that video to begin with? That's weird behavior, because if you do something with a person that wants to do the same thing, you are not then going to pull out your phone, put their camera in front of their face and say, hey, you wanted to do this, right? Say that you wanted it, because why on earth would you need that? That in itself, in my opinion, says that you knew that what you were doing was wrong, because at the very least, you were not sure. If you felt the need to ask for confirmation, then you were not sure, and that in itself should have been your answer. And the fact that there were so many people inside of that room and not one person said, hey, this is messed up, let's stop, not a single person, person. Insanity, but it gets worse. So, EM and her mom report this to authorities back in 2018, which prompts 2 investigations to be opened. A local police investigation into the group SA and one with Hockey Canada. EM's mom's boyfriend at the time had also called Hockey Canada's HR department himself to report the alleged SA that occurred. Former Hockey Canada CEO Tom Rennie, as well as the president Scott Smith, later said that they learned about what happened when they arrived back home from the gala. So, some teammates are interviewed. Alex Formanton, one who EM claimed that he took her to the bathroom specifically to do things just the 2 of them away from the group, says in his interview, just looking at his face makes me nauseous, to be honest with you. Not the point, because what he says is worse, right? So in short, he says, oh, EM was actually the one that was begging us to do things with her. We didn't want to, and she got really embarrassed and frustrated, and I think a little bit angry because, I don't know, I think that she thought that we thought that she wasn't hot enough because we didn't want to do anything with her in front of our teammates because that's weird and that would have made us feel uncomfortable. But she was mad that we didn't think that she was hot enough. So yeah, I mean, like, we did stuff, but she was the one who kept asking for it. Michael McLeod, the guy who EM did agree to go back to the hotel room, says, yeah, this was all her idea. She was the one that told me to invite all of my teammates into the room. She said that it was a fantasy that she had or something. He also said that he texted his teammates to come to his room because he had food. That's all he says, that he texts them, hey, I ordered food. If you want to come eat, come to my room. Which is a straight up lie, because what he actually texts his roommates is, quote, who wants to be in a 3-way quick 209 Mikey. I'm not exaggerating, that's what they said. And then in early 2019, police closed the investigation. And in 2020, Hockey Canada closed their investigation. No charges, no arrest, no anything. Michael shows the videos that he had of EM saying that she did give consent, and authorities literally said, oh, so she did want this to happen. Case closed, nothing to see here. EM was devastated. She felt so defeated. I cannot imagine what she felt when the investigations were closed. This is a quote from later on, but quote, she's never really experienced not being believed like this before. She agreed to do everything asked of her by the criminal justice system. She spoke to the police whenever requested. She reviewed her evidence. She prepared her testimony. She answered every question. She spoke with intelligence and from the heart, yet it was still not enough. So then we get to 2022. EM files a statement of claim seeking $3.5 million in damages from Hockey Canada, the Canadian Hockey League, and 8 players, quote, including but not limited to members of the Canada's men's junior hockey team from the 2018 World Junior team, end quote. She files it, and then Hockey Canada quietly settles. They reach an out-of-court settlement with EM for an undisclosed amount. Mind you, this is not public knowledge yet. Everything that has happened without it being reported on in the news. The public has no knowledge of it yet. That same month, former CEO Tom Rennie hears that a Canadian news outlet would be breaking the story about the SA allegations and the quiet settlement. And that's what happens. A reporter with TCN breaks the news to the public for the first time, mentioning EM's SA allegations, the lawsuit that she filed, and the settlement. Canada's former Minister of Sport has said since then that that month was the first time that she heard about all of this, right? So she's like, well, how did Hockey Canada settle? Like, where did the money come from? So she orders an audit from Hockey Canada to find out where the funds came from. Because if they used money from their general fund, part of that money could be like registration fees, which are paid by minor hockey families across the country, meaning that parents whose children played in these hockey leagues across Canada could have, without knowledge, helped pay to make an SA case against the national team go away, which is messed up. So she orders this audit to make sure that no public funds were used in the settlement. And from there, she announces a freeze in Hockey Canada's federal funding until the investigation is completed. Turns out public funds were used in the settlement. According to Hockey Canada, they had a national equity fund that they kept in case they had to use those funds for, quote, a broad range of expenses related to safety, wellness, and equity initiatives, end quote. Hockey Canada quickly announces from there that the fund would no longer be used to settle SA claims moving forward. While all of that mess is going on, the London police then announced that they are going to be reopening their investigation to conduct an internal review of the investigation that took place back in 2018. Hockey Canada also says that they would reopen their investigation and that in the meantime, all players from that 2018 team would have to cooperate or else they could face getting banned from future Hockey Canada activities. On June 30th, Tom Rennie retires as a CEO, appoints a new CEO, but then that CEO is forced out and its entire board of directors then resigns. In July of 2023, Catherine Henderson is announced as the new Hockey Canada president and CEO. In January of 2024, news reporters report that the 5 players, the 5 that we have been talking about, are asked to turn themselves in. They are all arrested and charged with SA, not because new evidence has emerged overnight, but because since the information had been made public, there was now a lot of pressure from the public for authorities to actually do something about this. At the time of their arrest, 4 out of the 5 were active NHL players. Michael McLeod and Cal Float were with the New Jersey Devils. Dylan Dube was with the Calgary Flames. Carter Hart was with the Philadelphia Flyers, and Alex Formanton had been playing in Switzerland. All 5 of them took leaves from their team. All 5 of them lawyer up, and then all of their lawyers come out and put out statements claiming their innocence. We are nearly 6 years since the night that everything took place, by the way. It happened in 2018, now it's 2024. It shouldn't have, but it took 5.5 years after the crime took place for arrest to be made. The first trial first took place April 22nd of 2025. The trial opened with a jury seated and ready to go. The prosecution goes through with their opening statements and then they break for lunch. They come back and then one of the jurors tells the judge that a defense attorney spoke to them out in public. Alex Formanton's attorney specifically. Jurors are not allowed to interact with attorneys whatsoever. So the jury comes back and the judge dismisses the jury. They are no longer going to be on this case and the trial was over before it really started. A second jury was seated shortly thereafter. EM testifies for 2 days. Then she gets cross-examined for 7 days. So she is telling her story, everything that has happened to her, all of the awful things that she has been through. And then 4 weeks into the trial, a juror tells the judge that they feel uncomfortable because Alex Formanton's attorneys again keep looking at them and laughing at them in the courtroom. So then the second trial falls apart. The jury is dismissed and a new jury has to be found and selected. But then the defense attorney, so the attorneys defending the men, not the victim, say, hey, you know what? Let's not do this a third time. Let's not have a jury. Let's just have a trial, no jury, in which you, the judge, and the judge only decides the verdict. Their argument was that opening statements had already been heard, that the victim, EM, had already spoken, and that she shouldn't have to go through everything again. And the judge says, okay, sure, no jury. I will be the only one to decide the verdict. A lot of people have strong opinions about that because they think that the defense attorneys could have potentially, allegedly wanted this the entire time, to have a trial with only the judge, no jury, allegedly. But then the third trial begins with no jury. This is now into May of 2025. The judge hears testimonies from multiple witnesses and examines surveillance footage, text messages, and competing accounts of the night of June 19th, 2018. Some of the text messages include messages from a group chat from back in 2018 with 11 teammates. This group chat was created about a week after the crime took place. A teammate by the name of Jake Bean says, quote, no boys, like we don't have to make anything up. No one did anything wrong. We just went to that room to eat. The girl came. Lie number 1, that's not true. She wanted to have with all of us. Lie number 2. No one did. Lie number 3. She gave a few guys and we got out of the room when things got too crazy. Dylan Duke, who was the captain at the time, says that he doesn't think that they're going to get in trouble for anything that they did. Michael McLeod then says, quote, we all need to say the same thing if we get interviewed. Can't have different stories or make anything up, end quote. The trial continues. Prosecutors obviously building up their case around EM's account of that night, from everything that she remembered and from everything that she had reported back in 2018. But the defense's tactic was to make her sound not credible, arguing that her recollection of events was inconsistent and unreliable. Mind you, this trial is taking place 7 years after that night, so yeah, it makes sense that no one's memories would be as fresh as it would have been should the trial have happened sooner. But the defense uses that to their advantage, breaking down anything that they could to say, look, EM said that this happened when in reality this is what happened. And in the small details that they could prove to be inconsistent with either CCTV footage or text messages, it sucks and it's terrible, but it did make the judge question whether everything that EM was alleging was true or not. One of the most significant pieces of evidence was the surveillance camera footage showing Michael McLeod leaving that night with EM. Footage that established that yes, they left together, but footage which both sides interpreted differently. The prosecution saw a man targeting a woman. The defense saw 2 people leaving together willingly. Ultimately, on July 24th of 2025, 7 years and 5 weeks after that night in the hotel room, Maria Carroccia delivered her verdict. She read the verdict for 5 hours, and at the end of it, all 5 men were acquitted on all charges. The core of her reasoning was direct about EM's evidence. Carroccia said that she did not find the complainant's testimony credible or reliable. She highlighted what she described as EM's, quote, tendency to blame others for the inconsistencies in her account. And just like that, all 5 men free to walk. If you're from Canada, I need to hear your thoughts about this. Yeah, I have no words. That's it from me today. Please let me know if you have heard about this case. Also, please let me know if you've seen any documentaries on this. I obviously was reading through a lot of news articles and watching videos on it, but I didn't look up if there's a documentary. I feel like there should be. But yeah, thank you for spending time with me today and for listening to EM's story. I hope you guys are having the best day. If not, go do something to make it the best day. Make somebody happy, and I will see you in my next video. Massive kiss on the forehead to every single one of you.